We'll lead off with introductions for the recording. I don't think we won't introduce, well, we have new members, so let's introduce everybody. I'm Jason LaRock. I'm outgoing president. Today will be my last meeting.
I'm Elise Schambecker. I'm the executive director of Addison Housing Works, and I am Newport.
Richard Wortham, I'm the new assistant director.
ACEDC.
Benny Perry, and I represent the city of Virgins. And I'm Richard McCurr. I'm City of Middleburg. Town of Middleburg. Sorry.
Ron Vendis. I'm representing the Regional Planning Commission. I'm from Bristol, and I'm a retired director of health improvement.
And I'm Alex Armani Munn, executive director of ACEDC.
Just in time.
Just late, sorry. Welcome, Chris. And then online we have Adam Levy, executive director of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, Darcy Tart of Community Bank, and Sue Ritter of Middlebury College.
Excellent. Our first order of business would be to approve the agenda as it's currently laid out. In talking with Alex, we don't have any changes to it at this point. So moved. It's been seconded. Moved by Rennie. Seconded by Richard. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. All right, hearing none, the motion is carried. Next item of business would be to vote on our October meeting minutes, which were in the packet. Do we have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. The same team. Any discussion?
With a moving second team.
I see that. 1 and 2. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion has carried. The meeting minutes have been approved. I'm going to turn it over to Alex for October and November staff activities.
Yes, thank you, Jason. And it has been a couple months to share with you today is actually in the room. Richard Worsman, our new assistant director. So again, we'll do a more formal intro and little Q&A later in the meeting, but we have hired on Richard, so very excited about that. Otherwise, we did receive some really good news on the grant front recently. So last week we learned that our fiscal year 26 Building Communities grant application, we had 5 projects submitted in that application. 4 of those projects were awarded their full funding request. So that was roughly $57,000 supporting 4 small businesses in Addison County. So now since 2021, we have secured over $250,000 for 23 different businesses through this program. So this is a program we continue to be very successful with year to year. Also excited to say, based on some changes we made to our grant fee or service fees this year, we were able to, through that program, recruit 4 new members and then make a little money off. The one applicant who didn't become a member did pay a fee for their application. So we actually generated a little revenue and a little membership off this program this year, which is exciting. And then also on the grant front, Chris, if you don't mind me sharing the really, really awesome news we got this week, actually Monday morning. The first email I got was from MBRC notifying us that we have secured, I say we, the city of Virgins has secured a $1 million MBRC grant to support infrastructure work at the Virgins North Housing Project. I do count this as a big win for ACEDC for a couple reasons. One being that we had the privilege of really working closely with Ron Redman at the City of Virgins, as well as Peter Kahn and Chris LaPierre, the partners of Virgins Housing Partners, on the application. Of course, just so folks are aware, full disclosure, Chris is a board member. Chris is a partner of Virgins Housing Partners. We did work closely with them on this application, and we'll continue to do so moving forward as we bring this very exciting project to fruition. But in addition to just the impact this will have in bringing mixed income housing to Virgins, for us as an organization, it will generate $20,000 in new grant administration revenue. And as folks are aware, we annually generate maybe around $50,000 to $60,000 in grant admin revenue. So that's a big deal for us. That's a bit of a game changer. And of course, that'll be dispersed likely over fiscal year 27, 28, depending on when we get the notice to proceed with that project. But that's a big win for us in terms of our grant services. So very excited with that, and excited again to see that project move forward. Otherwise, happy to say we've wrapped up Reds. I will be sending that final draft to Adam today or tomorrow. And again, that's the Regional Economic Development Strategy. That project was another big lift over the last several months, one that Camille worked really hard on. Ultimately resulted in, I think, a roughly 60-page plan. Very data heavy, very insightful. She did amazing work on that, but that was a big lift again, especially with her being remote. So excited to be on the other side of that project. Lots more happening, lots going on, but I'll leave it there for now. Those are really the highlights. But I think we're in a really good place right now, ending the year. So very excited.
Excellent. Any questions for Alex before we move on?
No, I think that BGS grant has been successful over the years. It's good to hear it's bringing membership in.
Yeah.
So I think we should keep pushing on that.
Yeah. Great. Next would be the November finance.
Yes, I'm not going to go into too much detail at the moment because we have year-to-date financials as an agenda item. Just want to know that there is the report in the packet. I have an updated report that I'll be reviewing with folks today, and I'll be saving that to SharePoint for future reference. I've been working with Seward over the last month or two to ensure that we're getting our monthly financial packages a little earlier in the month. For a couple months, we were getting them the week of this meeting, so it's very hard to turn around and prepare a more in-depth financial analysis. So moving forward, I'm hoping we'll be getting them again the first couple days of the month, which will allow a little more time for more robust reporting to the board.
Excellent. Also in your packet is the marketing and communications report for your reference. If there's anything we need to talk about on that or anything you want to highlight. So that brings us to citizen comments. This is an opportunity to raise or address questions or concerns not otherwise included on the agenda, whether they come from board members or items that community members have brought to board members that they'd like to bring forth at this point. So does anyone have anything they'd like to bring forth? All right, hearing none, we'll move on back to into our action agenda. First item is to approve a resolution to appoint Ryan Bartlett to the executive committee. Right, as you guys may or may not know, the executive committee is losing two members, myself and Gina. So we have two spots we need to fill. Ryan has agreed to take on one of those positions. So in your packet, there's a resolution.
Guess I moved the resolution. Is that what you're?
I'm looking for someone to move it.
Yeah.
So,
Moved.
No, I'll defer.
okay, so it's moved, and is there a second?
I'll second. All right.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. And any discussion? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the resolution has passed. Thank you.
Just for context, as Jason mentioned, there are two vacancies. One course is filled now, but we will likely be bringing back another action item, hopefully next month, to fill that last open seat.
And our next item, my last official action, is to, let me pull that one up, is a resolution to elect election of officers. So this would reconfigure the board. President would be David Castle. Vice President would be Darcy Tart. Chris Lapierre would be treasurer, and the newly appointed member, Ryan Bartlett, would be secretary. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that.
All right, do we have a second? Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, hearing no opposition, the resolution is passed. At this point, I will hand this meeting over to the new president.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Time you put in over the years, so
It's been a pleasure.
so we really appreciate it. So the next agenda item is information discussion. Probably hand it to Alex here for the intro of the new executive assistant director.
Yes. So yeah, Richard Borsman is here today, to be introduced as our new assistant director. So again, really excited to hire Richard on. Wanted to give the board an opportunity to just hear from him and ask any questions I have. I won't steal all his thunder, but I will say Richard comes to us with a pretty interesting background, limited in economic development, but definitely without a doubt has the skills and I think the personality to really thrive in this role. He has a master's in education from a little school called Harvard. Has a pretty impressive background in education and teaching and education consulting, speaks fluent Mandarin, which is also insanely impressive, and is a virtuoso on the mandolin.
It's true, yeah.
Yes, and with that, I will let Richard do a more eloquent introduction, but
I mean, you hit the important ones, right? Music nerd, speaks Mandarin. No, so I started my career in education, and eventually transitioned into a little bit more consulting and program evaluation work. And that's kind of where I started to get interested in questions that I think are pertinent to this group and the work that this organization is engaged in. So my wife and I moved here actually at the beginning of the summer, and in part to be a little bit closer to my family. Mom's side of the family's from the southern part of the state, Brattleboro area. And mostly though, we moved here for my wife's work. And she's a social worker at Porter. So anywho, we're just really excited to be members of the community, and even more excited to be able to, hopefully contribute something to the prosperity of the, of the county.
Welcome.
and any questions for Richard, or we want to wait to grill him? Future meetings.
We know he's smart. He listened for Jens, right?
Best in the city.
Bias there.
Where did you do your undergraduate?
Connecticut College. Okay. So I looked at Middlebury and I decided, because I wanted to study Chinese, and decided that it was a little too similar to where I grew up in New Hampshire. I grew up in a rural part of New Hampshire, so I was like, I need to live somewhere maybe a little different for a period of time. And then what happens to folks from Connecticut College is they either go to New York or they go to Boston. Like seriously, 95% of the graduating class, it's New York and Boston. So did that, did my obligatory decade in Boston and got burnt out on the city.
So I do just want to share, moving forward, Rich will be coming on in a part-time capacity for the next several months, really through September 2026. So it'll be a very incremental transition. I'm actually excited about this for a couple reasons. First and foremost, speaking of financials, we went about 50 or 60K over in personnel costs last year due to the executive director transition. So we're taking an opposite approach this year and limiting our personnel costs, which I think we have to do. So I'm really excited to have Richard on board working. It'll be about 16 to 25 hours a week through September. It'll give us the opportunity to train him while controlling our costs. So again, an opportunity to bring somebody on who I am confident will be here for the long term. While again, ensuring that we're not running well over our personnel costs as we've done in recent years. Also want to share that I have been in touch with Camille recently. Originally, she was going to work through mid-January. She's agreed to stay on with us in a part-time capacity as needed. So I'm working on a new scope of work for Camille right now, but over the next few months, we'll have the opportunity to really fill like a single FTE between Richard and Camille and have them working closely together to ensure that there's that seamless transition as she phases out. But we'll have her for a little longer, which again, I think is great for us. So I'm feeling, very confident with the transition, but just want the board to know that it'll be very incremental. So, yeah.
And then the next order of business is the farewell to Gina and Jason. Personally, I'd like to say, Jason, thank you for all your effort. It's been great working with you. We were all on the hiring committee together, and I think, bringing in Alex and the team is a great handoff. So curious what you're gonna do with all your free time now.
I was gonna volunteer for some boards.
I'm actually shedding a lot of my board activities. Today is 2 last meetings for me, so and at the end of the day, it'll just be Rotary and the Charter House. And I've committed to the Charter House for another 6 months or so, helping through some strategic planning and governance stuff. So other than that, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll be honest with you.
Good.
Welcome to lot rate mediation in Starksboro.
I'd love to, but I have a dentist appointment.
Well, as a man of much pomp and circumstance, I'm sorry we don't have something more formal for you, but we do have a small gift to show our appreciation.
Thank you.
And I want to echo Dave's sentiments and just thank you, not just for your leadership over the last several years, but especially over these last few months. I mean, the whole board really, and the executive committee especially has made my transition to this role, very easy. And I'm very, very grateful for your leadership and then, of course, the leadership of everybody here. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
And getting on board is always bittersweet. You hope that at the end of the day, you left it better than you found it. I think that I thank you. I think that this organization is in great shape. And I'm really excited to see where you're going in the future. I was listening to DRB meeting this past Middlebury DRB meeting this past Wednesday. Past Monday night. I listened to it Tuesday morning just to get caught up because we had a project involved. And Alex presented, and I was very impressed with the presentation, the data that he put forth, and I think he really fills that role as executive director and the leadership role that this organization needs in the county. So I'm really excited to see where you guys are going.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words. And yeah, excited to see some housing moving forward in Middlebury. All right. So unfortunately, Gina was not able to make it today. For folks who were at the annual meeting, we did have the opportunity to acknowledge her and thank her for her service then. But again, Gina has been amazing, especially with her HR and personnel experience. She's always been sort of our de facto HR sort of consultant, if you will, for ACEDC. And again, it's been very helpful for me. So we'll miss Gina as well. But with that, I would like to welcome our next board member. The funny thing about this board member is I don't know if I need to introduce her because she's so well known and I believe knows everybody in this room. But for folks who don't know Elise, Elise is the director of Addison Housing Works. I had the opportunity to meet with Elise early on as I was transitioning to the role, and it was clear to me immediately that she was just extremely intelligent and sharp. And as intelligent as she was also caring about the issue of housing and affordable housing. And I knew even before the idea of, trying to recruit her to our board came to mind, I knew she was going to be an amazing resource for me and for this organization, and that we had a great champion in housing. And as this board moves forward in this organization and trying to be a partner in facilitating more housing development, I think having somebody like Elise on the board will be critical. So welcome, Elise. I don't know if you want to say anything, no pressure.
Sure. I'm excited to be here. I've, been sort of tangentially involved with ACEDC over the past 10 years. And I think it's our worlds are so different between the private equity side of housing development and the affordable housing development. So like having both perspectives is really helpful. I anticipate learning a lot. And I do have a little smattering of workforce and economic development background as well. I spent 2.5 years at the National Governors Association Center for Best Practices in the Workforce and Economic Development Department, working on Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act projects, state 111D plans for renewable energy, and other sort of workforce and economic development related topics. So this is not just the housing side, but also the economic development side is near and dear to my heart. And I'm also on the Virgin's partnership with Redney. So just, really passionate about Addison County. I came from DC, went to Middlebury and stayed because I love this place and, care about it deeply. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. At least we'll do a more formal board orientation, you and I, at some point, maybe after the holidays, but
Sounds
yeah, excited to have you.
I'm like listening to.
All right. The next item is digging into the year-to-date financials.
Yes, so now the fun part of the meeting. So I wanted to take a moment. Again, I have not personally been satisfied with my financial reporting month to month. Which, we always have the monthly financial package and the packet, but I feel like we haven't really had a moment to stop and look at a point in time and see, okay, how exactly are we doing at this moment and how do things look moving forward? So that's why I really wanted to take some time today to not just let you know there was a financial package in the packet, but actually stop and look at it, analyze it, talk about it, have a discussion, see where things are going well, see where things aren't going well. And do want to just reiterate, we coming into this role, one of the first things that came to my attention was that we had operated a deficit for, I think, 3 years in a row, which thanks to ARPA money, we were able to get by on that for a while. And we do have good savings, but obviously we can't operate at a deficit in perpetuity. So balancing the budget is a huge, huge goal for me personally, and I think for the whole board. So again, want to look at our progress towards that end. So I'm gonna get right to the juicy part of things. If you look at our balance sheet right now, it doesn't look great. However, there's good news. So if you look at our net income, negative $16,428. I am happy to say that there's a little nuance here. So folks may recall, and I have shared this with our executive committee, but we had $28,100 in duplicate charges on our IRP, RLF accounts. So USDARD first in April charged us twice for a $6,877 annual interest payment on one of our IRP funds. Then in September, charged us twice for a $21,225 RLF payment. So again, that's $28,132 in erroneous charges that are yet to be reconciled. My latest angry email to USDA was sent this week. Of course, there was a shutdown in the midst of this, but it's I've sent several polite emails, and this was the first week where I had to be very frank with them. And I've gotten responses in the past basically saying, oh, new system, there are glitches, we're looking into it, we'll take care of it. But it's been extremely frustrating. And again, it's affecting our balance sheet now. This is also an issue I've brought to the attention of Senator Welch's staff as he serves on the Ag Committee. So hopeful we'll get some resolution. But what I wanted to do was take a moment to show the board that once these charges are reconciled, or assuming if they had been reconciled in November, our actual balance for our IRP accounts would be the $243,454.66, giving us actual checking and savings balance of $487,019.77, which runs into current assets of just over, current assets of 1.215 million. All this to say, ultimately, in the end, I thought I had, our net income in reality, where is it? There it is. Our actual net income at the moment is $11,703.36. So again, a little misleading on the balance sheet right now. We are in better shape than it suggests. And I'm hopeful that when we meet again in January, I can show you that those charges have been reconciled. So feeling pretty good about that, but I do want to move on now to the profit and loss and just take a closer look at some specific items. If anybody has questions as I go along, please jump in. First, an area where we have not done great this year, our event and publication sponsorship. We did draft a sponsorship packet earlier in the year, put a lot of effort into that, did not put a ton of effort into marketing it. So Nicole and I have been chatting about that recently, and now coming into the new year, we'll be putting a lot more effort. We'll do an updated sponsorship packet But we had slightly higher event costs this year and did not do a good job offsetting it with sponsorships. So that's one area where would really like to improve through the rest of fiscal year 25 and especially or 26 and especially in fiscal year 27. Business dues were this again is a little misleading. It looks like we're outperforming our budget, but with our business dues, a lot of those dues come in like right at the end of the fiscal year. So what it looks like we're ahead of pace right now, where I would say we're really not. With that said, we have had a pretty good year bringing in new memberships. There's still some churn that we're addressing. So we'll continue to focus a lot of attention on not just retaining members, but bringing in new members. I know I brought this up a few months ago and trying to bring the board into more member renewal and attraction activities. Did get some responses from Richard and Rennie, which I can always count on. So thank you guys very much for that. But would like to get even more board members involved in just some of that outreach, especially recognizing, as I said before, that a lot of board members have long-time relationships with folks in the community that I don't have. So would really like to leverage those. Municipal contributions, those are very predictable. Those have been coming in, as expected for this time of year, and will likely continue to do so. With grants, again, our RDC operating grant, that's very timely, very predictable. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Same thing with RPP. Our RPC support has not come in yet. I'll continue working, communicating with Adam on that 15,000. MBRC capacity, this is something I was working on cleaning up this week. This is really a path through. So again, this is not $27,000 in unbudgeted revenue. I wish it was. But otherwise, I would say with our grant services, we're performing well this year. Again, nothing surprising here. However, with our ACEDC tourism grant, that's the GROW grant that we administer in partnership with the chamber. In our semi-annual reporting earlier this year, I think around July, it came to our attention on communications with tourism and marketing that there were reimbursements that we were not claiming for like operational costs. So we were submitting reimbursements for our admin time. However, we found out that the program also offers reimbursement for operational costs like utilities and rent and the cost of your printer and things like that, which frankly I thought was unnecessary, but great. So we were able to file, I think it was like another $3,000 in reimbursements. So our tourism grant, again, that revenue is coming in higher than expected. Just so folks are aware, I think I have shared that we were awarded another 2 years of GROW grant funding. We will be getting that agreement in January. I'm not entirely sure yet if it'll have the same reimbursement structure. We'll get reimbursed for our time as well as our sort of secondary expenses. If that's the case, which I hope it is, that'd be great because that's just more money. But I'll let folks know that. Revolving loan fund, again here, I think we've been performing pretty well. Nothing we have closed out, or two loans have reached maturity in the last year. Well, one really at the end of fiscal year 25 and then one more recently. Loan activity has been slow. We have a few more loans. I don't remember the exact number, but a few more that'll mature in the next year or two. So I think it is very important. I don't think we'll see an impact on revenue this fiscal year or really next year, but if we don't start issuing more loans soon, then in the next couple of years we'll see that loan revenue slow down. So again, this is something we've discussed in prior strategic planning, but I think first recapitalizing our loan fund and then really trying to get more loans out there will be important for just preserving that revenue moving forward.
Out of curiosity, Alex, I think it was the USDA that we applied for another pool of money to relend.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this question based on your prior comments, but any movement
there? But I'm actually really glad you asked, Chris. So this is a conversation that we could have in January, but I think would be more appropriate for our annual strategic planning. The feedback we've gotten now after 2 or 3 unsuccessful recapitalization applications from USDA is that unless we're putting money in the pot, we're probably not going to be successful. They've indicated that 25,000, I think, will get us 10 additional points. 50,000 will get us 15 additional points, and this is for an application of $500,000 in new funds. So the best path forward, if we were to go that route, would be to take 25 or 50,000 from our ACEDC RRLF. That currently sits at 83,000 is the balance on that, but that's a revolving loan fund that is not really active. We don't do anything with it. We have one active loan in that portfolio right now to Stony Hill up in Bristol, but that money has essentially been sitting there for I think a few years now. So I think it could be put to more productive use, whether as a match for USDA or through some other lending program, target lending program. And we've had some very sort of initial conversations about that, but I do think, and if the board is interested, I can put together a resolution analysis, just frame this with a little more detail as to what it would look like if we were to redirect some of that money towards USDA matching. So, but yeah, I think we'll continue to be unsuccessful without that. With that said, there are other sources we can apply to for recapitalization on our revolving loan funds. And those sources do allow that can be mingled with USDA funds. So there's other alternatives, and it's not that we have to choose one or the other. We could recapitalize with USDA and still go after other lending sources, but it's just part of a larger conversation that we could have that conversation in January, February. My concern is that it could have budget implications that because of that we may want to wait until May, but happy to take direction from the board on that. Oh, anyway, don't have to figure it out now, but okay. Moving on. So income right now coming in at $154,047. Office expenses are down a little bit. Here, the two things that are really keeping office expenses down, we were paying a cleaner $50 a month to not clean, so we stopped doing that a while ago. Yeah.
That is the going rate for not cleaning.
Yeah.
I've experienced that.
Yeah. And Nicole, thank you very much for Nicole. It waters the plants, cleans up, tidies up, does a great job, keeping the office nice. In addition to that, our tech support, we were doing a lot more tech support earlier in the year, really at the end of fiscal 25 as I got trained on things like Portfolio and just got set up. These days it's much fewer calls to Stillway, so I think that'll continue to be a lower cost. So really doing a good job again, just controlling those office costs. But the big headline is again our employment expenses down considerably. Director of health insurance, I was not drawing from this last few months. I am now. So we saved some money there, and thank God I didn't get hurt. But I will be drawing on that now. Our payroll taxes, this is significantly lower, really because we moved Camille from being on the payroll tax to now we're paying her as sort of a consultant, if you will. So we're not paying payroll tax for Camille. Otherwise, salary and wages with the reduction in hours for Camille is down. So our overall employment expenses are about $15,000 below year-to-date budget, which again I think is great, and we'll continue to really, and not to get into the weeds of it, and I'm sure folks are already very well aware of this, but we don't spend a ton of money. We're not buying a bunch of raw materials to produce value-add goods. Our goods are our labor and our time. So when it comes to balancing the budget, where we really have the most control in my mind is through our labor and our employment expenses. So we'll continue to use that lever to, again, make sure we're controlling costs and working towards a balanced budget. Otherwise, marketing, this is another area where we are over this year. And again, that's largely due to having to post for the assistant director position. We had a similar experience last year when we had to post for the executive director position, caused us to exceed our marketing budget. This is an area that we can discuss more in May, but now that we've seen, I think, a couple years of exceeding our marketing budget, knowing that that can be sort of volatile. You never know when you have to post for a position. I think that's an area where we may want to allocate more money in the future. And I think there's also marketing opportunities that we haven't pursued that are worthy of some dollars. So again, don't think we need to have a ton of conversation on it right now, other than I would just encourage the board to consider how we maybe reform that budget come May. Professional services, this line item, this represents Camille's pay since August, and again, moving her from payroll employee to just a consultant. otherwise, everything there pretty much tracks. It's in here somewhere. We may get to it, but we do still have a $12,500 expense for our audit. I did get an update from the auditor last week that he's working on wrapping up that report and should have the final audit test in the next few weeks. So that we're slightly ahead of where we were last year. I don't think we got our fiscal year 24 audit until February last year. I think I had actually started before we even got that. That was not, Fred's fault by the names. They just kind of dragged their feet last year, and we had communicated to them that we would need it in a more timely manner this year. So they're delivering on that, which is great. But again, probably our biggest expense between now and the end of the fiscal year will be that the cost for the audit. But I think with the RPC contribution coming in, I kind of put those two together. It's like, all right, cover audit with RPC contribution. Yep.
Do you have extra audit requirements, either single audit or?
So historically, depending on our level of lending activity, we have in the past been required to do a single audit. We were not required to do one this year. So, yeah.
How much of your energy is involved in that audit?
It's interesting. It kind of came in spurts where there wasn't much early on. There was a point sending out, letters to lenders that did require a bit of time. I expected it to be much more time consuming than it has been though. And that may just be because we didn't have the single audit this year. But honestly, and again, knock on wood, it's been fairly painless. And Wilmette and it's Wisehart Wilmette, and I forget the name of the firm, but I think they've done a great job. And Seward, I can't say enough good things about Seward, our accounting firm. They're amazing, and I think we just have it down now to a system where it's pretty efficient.
That's good. I think years ago, it was a big burden on Fred, so it's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Well, and looking at past years, it seems like he was doing a lot of work on it.
Yeah.
I was like, am I missing something here? Or so
Yeah, Seward's been great.
yeah, awesome. All right, I promise I'm almost done getting through these expenses. Professional development. I kind of made this comment to the board early in the year and to staff, we're gonna save some money this year. We're not going to conferences all over the state or signing up for every webinar. So we've really limited that cost, which I think is fine. Memberships, I have to look in to see what exactly is going into memberships. But this is, again, not too much concern here with the professional development costs. Meals and mileage, again, this is an area where we have a lot of control. It's not a big budget item, but not doing a lot of executive lunches, and not driving too much. Meeting expenses, this is one that I think I need to do a better job with, and then the next year or two. Not that costs were much higher than they have been in years past or than expected, but again, I think we need to do a better job just offsetting it with event income and sponsorships. The one that really dinged me was, and this was fiscal year 25, but our board retreat, that was like a $3,000 or $4,000 event and did not need to be. And in years past, it was always a full day event with a cocktail hour at Basin Harbor. And in years past, we had gotten a pretty good deal from them on that. We didn't get the same deal this year. And I think for folks who were at the retreat, they would agree that it did not need to be the 7 or 8 hour event that it was. So as we get closer to May, we plan this year's retreat. My intent is to do a half day. Maybe we'll do a lunch and then 3 hours, 4 hours of strategic planning. And again, that was fiscal year 25. So that event didn't impact this year's budget. But I don't think we need to spend another $3,000 or $4,000 on that. All right. And that's pretty much it. The last thing I wanted to call attention to, and I imagine for board members who've been on the board for a year or more, this has probably come up in the past, but looking at the profit and loss, it was positive right up until about October, and then this 8340 loan loss expense hit in October at like 23,000 something dollars and completely tanked the net other income and by extension the net income. And when I first saw it, I had no idea what this was. So I had a small heart attack, emailed Fred, reached out to Seward. I was like, what is this $23,000 of unbudgeted expense? and I'm gonna do my best to explain this, and I might mess it up a little bit, but the loan loss expense, that specific line item, what that represents is the change year to year in our loan loss reserve in the, what we charge borrowers for the loan loss reserve. So this year, several of our borrowers, based on their financials, what they submitted, um, were bumped up a tier to a higher percentage of loan loss reserve, fees. So we're collecting more than we did last year in loan loss reserve fees. That money basically kind of pay out from our RLF funds, and then it gets paid down through the rest of the year. So again, already from October to November, it went from like 23,000 something down to 20,000 something. By the end of the year, we'll be probably well under $1,000. But again, it just represents the change in what we're collecting through the loan loss reserve each year. And we kind of pay ourselves, and then we recoup that money as folks are paying into the loan loss reserve throughout the year. So again, makes things look not great right now, but if you remove that item, we're in a much better position. So sorry if that was a little bit clunky. But if folks have any questions or comments, I'll just kind of summarize by saying, I think we still have room for improvement, but right now I'm confident that we're trending towards a balanced budget, by the end of this year. So happy with that and hopeful we'll get there.
Loan loss reserve is just a non-cash expense.
Non-cash, that was my
Yeah.
question. Non-cash, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like a free kid.
Alex, with the double charge at 23,000 or whatever it is, are there
Yes.
any other organizations dealing with that? And have they come out on top?
I've shared with the RDCs like that this situation that we're dealing with. Nobody has indicated like that they have had that same exact issue, but everybody I've talked to, from RDCs to other organizations who work with USDA have shared similar frustrations.
Okay.
So that specific issue may be unique to us. But the frustration with USDA seems to be universal right now. So yeah.
Okay, keep an ear out if anyone has any recommendations of who to call.
Yeah.
It's usually one person
Yeah.
that needs to trigger it.
Yeah. And in my latest email, I CC'd the state director for New Hampshire and Vermont, and hopeful that he'll, put some urgency into it, but we'll see.
Any more discussion about financials? Thanks for combing through that and explaining everything.
Yeah, I hope it was as fun for everybody as it was for me. But again, I'll be honest, I have not put enough time month to month just with everything going on to really monitor this, but in earlier months in the fiscal year, everything was running positive. So it wasn't until October where I started to see negative numbers where I was like, all right, what's going on here? And I feel much more comfortable now, doing a deeper analysis each month and just making sure that the board is privy to everything going on in real time. So
Great, thank you. So the next item is executive session, but I don't think we have anything. And we will, because we don't have executive session, we don't need to discuss anything. Anything else people want to bring up before we adjourn? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, thank you all. This is a great meeting. See you
Hey,
next month.